This is the Kenya Gazette of the 11th December 1970. This Kenya Gazette starts from page 1334 all the way to 1337. It is the Kenya Gazette of the Gazettement of Kenya Police Officers in that year of 1970. Before I start going one-on-one, I want to say that this is what in police colleges is called PPT. PPT is police practice in theory. Police practice in theory. It means learning theoretically about police work through paperwork without visiting a police station or a police formation. But this one is special because it is a historical PPT. Is a historical police practice in theory. The Kenya Gazette in 1970 used to cost 1 shilling and 50 cents. I don't know how much it costs today. This Kenya Gazette I was given by Jared Joram Wangila. Jared Joram Wangila gave me this Kenya Gazette because in the same Kenya Gazette that my father has been appointed to be a superintendent of police, his father, Jackton Olo Wangila, was also promoted or appointed in the same Kenya Gazette. So he saw his father's name and he saw my father's name. Then he gave me the whole Kenya Gazette from January 1st to December 31st in 1970. But I only printed and laminated things that have got to historical PPT, historical police practice in theory. There is a lot of things you find that those police officers who are promoted or appointed by this same Kenya Gazette are the people who went to rule or control the Kenya police in the 80s and the 90s. We will come to that one by one, but you'll find all of them are here. Most of them are here. So these are the age group, if I can say, that controlled the Kenya police in the 80s and in the 90s. Another thing I noticed while going through the Kenya Gazette is that I formed an opinion that it is in 1970 that it was decided that police officers from the rank of assistant superintendent of police onwards were made gazetted officers. That is why you'll find that there is a promotion of somebody who was promoted in September 1962, but the appointment is appearing in the Kenya Gazette of 11th December 1970. There is another one, Ken Fred of Special Branch, whose appointment to the rank of superintendent was done in January 1963. And then Ken Fred was a European. And then there is an Asian called Star Han. Star Han was promoted in November 1963. So if you look at all these things, you will see that before this time, it is possible to come to a conclusion that before 11th December 1970, all police officers of the rank of superintendent and assistant superintendent and above were not referred to as gazetted officers. So the gazettement started in 1970 with this very same Kenya Gazette that you are now seeing. The other thing I wanted to say is that from January to December 1970, there was no gazettement. Today, if you are gazetted as an assistant superintendent of police, it appears you will be unlucky if it stayed for a month. It appears almost immediately. But you'll find that from January of 1970 to December 1970, there was no single gazettement. They were all gazetted in one gazette notice in the Kenya Gazette of 11th December 1970. So it is, I would not be wrong if I said that the appointment and promotion of gazetted officers started with this very same Kenya Gazette that I am holding. It is a start. It started. That is why it started. Now you'll find that I'll start reading one and one. I'll be jumping, but when I reach on somebody who became famous or whatever, I will pause and comment more about him. You'll find that the first person to appear was Wilson Malinya, to act as an inspector of police, special branch, office of the president. Because special branch, even at the time when I joined in the mid-80s, there were police officers who were stationed in the office of the president. So Malinya was appointed to act. That is, he was an assistant superintendent of police, but he was acting as a superintendent of police special branch with effect from 1st July 1969. I never knew him. Magonda, I never knew him. John Gashanja Mburu. John Gashanja Mburu, I later worked under him. I never met him, but he was a deputy commissioner of police in special branch during my time. Samuel Dukumove, I never knew him. George Kipkemoi Kimeto. His last station was, he was a senior assistant commissioner of police in charge of special branch Rift Valley. When Moi took over, he wanted to get rid of Kanyotu, and he targeted George Kipkemboi Kimeto to be the director of intelligence. By then, Kimeto was a senior assistant commissioner. But Moi hated people who took alcohol. So Kimeto told Moi that he had stopped taking alcohol, and they would work with Moi all the time, but at night he would take whiskey without mixing. That one caused his lung failure, and he died as a result. Richard Malakwen Chepkok, he left the intelligence when he was a deputy commissioner of police in charge of administration. There was a time he was the head of, actually, he took over from Kimeto, but not immediately. But he ended up being a deputy commissioner, and there was a problem. They were saying that a deputy commissioner could not be the head of special branch in Rift Valley when the PPO was a senior assistant. So he was transferred to Nyati House and headed the administration. Justin Mwanike, I didn't know him. Ochieng Omolo, I didn't know him. Shem Marco, I didn't know him. James Karioki Gashanja, I used to read documents prepared by him, by James Gashanja, which showed that he ended up as a deputy. James Gashanja ended up as a deputy commissioner of police. That was James Gashanja. That was a special branch. David Kimotho Musila, I didn't know him. Paul Gitonga Mwambi, I didn't know him, although he was in the special branch. Githai, I didn't know him, he was in the special branch. And Cheroyot Arab Chebi, I didn't know him, although he was in special branch. You can see that ordinary police officers, they start with Japhet Lando Kwatenge. Japhet Lando Kwatenge, as you may have noticed, that was my father. He was appointed to act as a superintendent of police from 1st July 1969, and he is in record as being the longest serving superintendent of police in Kenya's history. Then we have Moses Matanka, I never knew. Eliud Mwogo, Stephen Maringo Nandi, I didn't know him. I'm mentioning all the names because they may have relatives. Jaginjure, no. Samson Mangoli, he was a close friend of my father, but I never knew him. Musioka Kibwai, I didn't know him. Gabriel Onyango Owinga, I didn't know him. Baya, I didn't know him. Jackton Olo Wangira. The son is the one who gave me these documents. It shows that he Jackton Olo Wangira and my father were appointed to act as superintendent of police on the same day. Then John Mangi Petro, I didn't know him. When we go again, Faisal, I didn't know him. Mohammed, I didn't know him. John Dambuki Mulu, I didn't know him. Awan Mustag Khan, you can see that those days we used to have Asians. We have Geoffrey Kinoti Manyara. He was appointed to act as a superintendent of police on 1st July. This one, the last station I heard of him, he was the PPO Nairobi area. He headed the police in the whole of Nairobi area. Samuel Maina, I didn't know him. Francis Mururu, I didn't know him. Elijah Sakaja. When Sakaja was made the governor of Nairobi, I was wondering whether they are related, but this Elijah Sakaja is a Maasai. He later ended up being the chief firearm officer in the Kenya Police. One time he told me, he came to teach us in Kiganja and asked me, when I introduced myself as James Lando Kwatenge, he said, "Are you a brother to Japheth Lando Kwatenge?" I said, "No, I'm not a brother." My father later laughed because Japheth Lando Kwatenge was not my brother. So that is Elijah Sakaja. He was a Maasai, just a namesake of. We have Daniel Ngata, I didn't know him. Mbudhi, I didn't know him. C.V. Monteiro. C.V. Monteiro retired in 1978 as a police officer. C.V. Monteiro was an Asian, actually a Goan, and he was very famous because of his love for boxing. He was an official of Amateur Boxing Association, the Police and National. Jimmy Kigitao, I didn't know him. Henry Matalanga became the provincial. Henry Matalanga used to play for AFC Leopards before Kenya attained independence, but later joined the police. And when he was playing for AFC Leopards, by then it was used to be called Abaluya, he went to Togo, and there is a big club in Butere called Togoland, remembrance of his trip. Dennis Masharia Karaoke, I don't know him. Garika George, I don't. Anthony Odenyo Ochindo, I don't know him. Joseph Lucira Hamisi, I didn't know him. Bernard Odhiambo, I didn't know him. Michael Masai Waseka, I didn't know him. Zephaniah Oyale, I didn't know him. Then there is Cedric Vincent, I didn't know him. John Kipkemboi Mutai, I didn't know him. Then there was Simon Githui. These were people whose, can I call them promotion? But they were called appointment. Now, what is the difference between appointment? You see, it is written Public Service Commission, notice number 3625, appointments. And then below here, it is written promotions. In the civil service, and especially in the police, you are given a new rank to act for 6 months. And then, for example, me, I was a constable, a Form 6 constable. So, I was appointed in 1988 to act as an inspector. But I was confirmed, people call it confirmed, as an inspector in 2 years later. So when you get the promotion, first of all, you are given to act in that new rank for about 6 months or more. You have to fulfill certain conditions. Some people act forever, but the minimum is 6 months, where you have to fulfill, like in the police, you have to fulfill conditions that include passing of exams. Now we go back to these ones who are promoted. Promotions. Promotions means that they were acting in that rank, but now they have been confirmed. If you are confirmed in your rank, it means that you are now promoted. The first one we go to Francis Leonel Omasibi. I didn't know him. There is David Willis Howson. There is Lighton Brian Michek Davis. That one I used to hear of him, but I didn't know him. There is Alexander Charles Patterson. Yeah, he used to be chief firearm officer, but I never met him. Then there is Shashinkant Raval, who was promoted to be Assistant Commissioner of Police with effect from 1st July 1970. He was, if you know of a school called Ravels, he was the owner of the school. Later, he is the person who transferred, you know, the traffic headquarters next to the Kenyatta National Hospital. That one used to be the traffic headquarters. He's the one who moved the traffic headquarters from Kenyatta National Hospital to Ruaraka. Okwiri, I don't know him. John Denson Irwan, I didn't know him, but he was a Mzungu. Thomas Mutisia Kasango, I didn't know him. Parkash Sharma, he was an Indian, I didn't know him. David Wilcon, Francis Okomba. Then there is John Muchanga Narianya. John Muchanga Narianya was promoted to the rank of Senior Superintendent in 11th September 1968. John Muchanga Narianya, his son, who was called Narianya Muchanga, was my teacher when I was 1988, when I was attending inspector's course. Then there is David Oluoch Opar. This was my father's immediate boss at the railways. He was the deputy commandant. Later he joined politics in Karachuonyo. He was a long-serving chairman of Gor Mahia Football Club. Father to Lilian Opar, father to Lawino Opar, father to Modeling Opar, and others. Those are the ones I know. He was promoted to senior superintendent on the very same day that Bernard Kiarie Njiru was promoted. That is 11th September 1968. As I said, these things were being backdated. This is 1970, but it was being backdated because I think that is the time when superintendents and above were gazetted. Bernard Kiarie Njiru went on to be the police boss. He's the one who took over from Mr. the GSU man. He's the one who took over from the GSU man, Ben Gedhi. You see, the first African police boss was Bernard Hinga, then Ben Gedhi took over, then he took over from Ben Gedhi. You'll see when you go to the next page, page 1135, you find that there is James Erastus Mungai. He was promoted to be Senior Superintendent of Police in December 1968. If you want to know about James Erastus Mungai, he is the person who the Moi government claimed that he had started Angoroko, and he was supposed to kill Moi and Kinakibaki in State House Nakuru. That is a long story, but I hope you have heard about it. There is Karim Singh Parkai. Those are Indians. Those days you find he sings were. Then there is Ruben Barasa Mwembe. I never knew. Then there is Joseph Kimeu Ngutu to be Senior Superintendent of Police with effect from 3rd November 1969. Joseph Kimeu Ngutu ended up being the commandant of Kenya Police College Kiganjo. He was the commandant of Kenya Police College Kiganjo when I was a recruit. And when the history of Kiganjo will be written, he will be considered to be one of the people who are the best college commandants. That is according to me. Then there is Ignatius Iriganderi to be Senior Superintendent of Police with effect from 1970. I get confused here because the director of CID then was called Ignatius Nderi, but he was an assistant commissioner. I think these are just a namesake of him. Then there is Samuel Mwatu Wadhome. Samuel Mwatu Wadhome used to work with me in Special Branch. He was my boss. I never met him, but people used to praise him as a very good intelligence officer. Otucho, I don't know him. John Muthiora Gadhuna. John Muthiora Gadhuna was a brother to Dr. Muthiora, the person who replaced Dr. Njoroge Mungai, and he died immediately in a suspected assassination. When Moi wanted to get rid of Kanyotu, by then I was a recruit 1983. John Muthiora Gadhuna was then the Deputy Director of Intelligence. When Moi wanted to make him the Deputy Director of Intelligence, Kanyotu informed him that Gadhuna was old, he was over age. His own son, Muthiora Gadhuna, was a classmate of mine as a recruit, and his other son, his senior son, was Chief Inspector Muthiora of the Special Branch, who was my boss. Edward Raymond Evans was a Muzungu, I don't know him. Kasim Rashid Salim, I didn't know him. Geoffrey Wilton, I didn't know him. Marcellus Ndege Kola, I didn't know him, and I'm sure he's not even related to Mr. Kola, the commandant. William Ogutu Dera, I didn't know him. Mackenzie Paxton was a Muzungu. Henry Peter Wasike, I never knew him. Then there is Timothy Robin Hungerton Morgan, to be Superintendent of Police with effect from 11th March 1966. This one is the one who later started the Rec Company, and he was my commandant at GSU Training School. He is the founder of a security company known as BM Security, Bob Morgan. Kimngetich Kimeto, I didn't know him. Bindio Musara, I have to correct myself. There are two Morgans here. The first one I've said, Timothy Robin Hunga Morgan, is not the founder of Bob Morgan. No, I'm wrong there. But if we come down here, you'll get Robert John Patrick Morgan. He's the one who started Bob Morgan, and he's the one who was my commandant GSU Training School. Sorry for the confusion. Peter Stephen D'Souza, that was a Goan. Samuel Wakoli Okembo, I didn't know him. MZ Butt used to be in the newspaper a lot. Joseph Kimeli, I didn't know him. Charles I didn't know him. Nathan Kibiri, I didn't know. John Wambu, I didn't know him. Mativo, I didn't know him. Ombai, I didn't know him. James Karuma, I didn't know. Gul Mohammed Shafi, I didn't know. Zetu, I didn't know. Zakaria Kilonzo. Singh, I didn't know him, but though he was a Singh. Joseph Wangombe, I didn't know him. Solomon Muyundo, to be Superintendent of Police with effect from 1st July 1961. Solomon Muyundo was my village mate, and the last station he worked was the Commandant Railway, and he was sacked on the same day as James Erastus Mungai was sacked on the same day. That is Muyundo. There is Hayumbi, I didn't know him. Mtoingala, all this Kina Marango, I didn't know him. I'm only giving all the names because I know they may have relatives. Where I didn't know him. Ochoko, I didn't know him. Chemase was in the GSU, and the last station, Barnabas Kipkorir Chemase, the last station he worked, he was the head of the presidential escort of President Moi. Wambua Peter, I didn't know him. Noah Kiharu, I didn't know him. Patrick Mutua Nzoma, Sowe, I didn't know him. Isaac Changonya, I didn't know him, but I used to hear of him. Kioko, I didn't know him. Hudson Ogut, that one I didn't know him. Omondi Owino. Zulfil Khan used to be known. I think he used to be associated a lot with matters to do with firearms. Then there is James Peter Gatui. James Peter Gatui was the last presidential escort commander of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. he was transferred to be the head of he was transferred to police headquarters as one of the deputy commissioners, but when there was the attempted coup in 1982, he was then transferred to Northeastern, I think, on punishment. Then there is Joseph Mudambi Kola. Joseph Mudambi Kola was promoted to be superintendent on 1st July 1969. He was the deputy commandant when I attended Kiganjo as a recruit, but when I went back as for the inspector's course, Joseph Mudambi Kola was the commandant. There is Philip Mule Kilonzo. Philip Mule Kilonzo was the commissioner of police when Mr. Dr. Robert Ouko was killed, and he died in a very funny way because he tested he was just called aside. When he came back, he said his alcohol tested funny, and he collapsed and died. Cleophas Joseph Okoko was a very senior CID officer. Richard Omar, I don't know him. Kuria Nganga, I don't know him. Robert Muindi, I don't know him. Kaminda, I don't know him. Jonah Musoma, I didn't know him. Olali, I didn't. Mark Otieno. Richard Muga, I didn't know him. Jeremiah Watini Gatia, I used to hear of him. David Muigai Wanjenga, I didn't know him. Mageria, James John Mageria. He was a superintendent of police, but later was transferred to prison and was a very senior prison officer. James John Mageria. Timothy Munga, I didn't know him. Ogode, I didn't know him. Erastus Mbijiwe. Erastus Mbijiwe was the PPO in Rift Valley when, during the time when Moi was overthrown in 1982. And so he organized for Moi to leave Kabarak, some say inside a maize plantation, and he organized for Moi to be taken to State House, Nairobi, and address the nation. Okada, I didn't know him. Karajiput, I didn't know. Marjan Jairus, I didn't know him. Joseph, I know him. Kiari, I didn't know him. Johnson Mwakazi. Johnson Mwakazi was a career CID officer, and the last time I heard of him was 1986-87 when he was the deputy. Was it the deputy PPO or the PPO Western Province? Rajab Ramadan, I used to hear him. Ochanda, I never heard of. Parkan. Charles Ajimbi. No. Ahmed, I didn't know him. Charles Nzuki, I didn't know him. There was David Ndambu. David Ndambu, I did not know who David Ndambu was. So those are the appointments that were happening that time, and we still continue with the list. Bear with me. Kumar Chanam was an Asian, I don't know him. Kenneth Frederick Wood was a Mzungu. Francis Dollar, I used to hear of him. Was very popular but never met him. Edward Karanu, no. Kibet Serema, I never knew him. Jackton Goloma. John Kanyutu Ndu, I never knew. John Robert Obalo, I never knew. Jonathan Mudhembwa and Zibo, I never knew him. So same with Otieno and Makotsi. Wainaina Kinyanjui, I didn't know him, although we worked in the special branch together. Crispus Owindo Okello. I remember him. One time he was a PPO. I think he was a PPO Western. Nzuki, I don't think I've met him even. Cheusi. William Badha Kivuvani. He was with the special branch. He's the one who took over from James Kanyotu, and he is the person who signed my dismissal letter from the police service. That is why I complained that he had no powers to sack me, because as a confirmed inspector, I was to be sacked by Public Service Commission. Elizabeth, I didn't know her. Sitar Khan, I didn't know him. Kehara, I didn't know him. Even Sarjit Singh, I didn't know him. But you notice that we used to have a lot of Asians there. and Wazungu, like Morcaft. Joginda Singh Soki. Joginda Singh Soki was very much known on the same level as Patrick Shaw during their time. Walter Wambia, I didn't know him. Lusenak, I didn't know him. Nehemiah Ombati. Nehemiah Ombati was the CID officer who investigated Ouko's murder, and he died in a mysterious manner. Zablon Olang, I never met him, but I used to see police officers who are related to him would used to come and visit my father to say hi to him. He became a politician and even ended up as an assistant minister. Viewers, that is the first gazettement of the police officers ever, if the way I've read it is right, and we never had that. If you know of any police officer serving or anybody interested in police history, please tell them to watch this. Thank you.